Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I thought today we would have a chat about the Turan III, because to be honest, I had a much better experience than I thought I would in the vehicle. When it first came onto the dev server, and also first came onto the live server, I was kind of worried, not because of the gun was obviously always going to be good, but the fact that the armor profile was, well, kind of all over the place. The vehicle is huge, it's an absolute massive vehicle, and since it has a lot of flat plates on it, and most of those flat plates are only 75mm, especially on the front, I was worried about the fact that whenever I got seen, I would just get hammered by something. And to be honest, this did happen a few times, whether it was against stuff like T-34s or Panzer IVs or Shermans, especially Shermans with the vertical stabilizer on their gun. You know, you every so often just get bonked and you just get annihilated. But surprisingly for the vehicle, I was able to a lot of the time be able to get the first shot off, or just actually defend a shot, especially from the side. The additional kind of mesh that's on this vehicle has actually saved me a couple of times, mainly because there is a few heat slingers around these BRs and also HE slingers. Against AP, of course, it just kind of went straight through, but because a ton of people didn't exactly know where to shoot me, because of the fact it was a new vehicle, I survived a lot more than I feel like I should have, and maybe that'll change going forward. But the one thing that really surprised me about the Turan III, compared to a lot of its predecessors, and also compared to other similar vehicles, stuff like the Panzer IV, for example, is its mobility. Even though this thing is larger, even though it has, you know, a little bit less armor than some others, and no real add-on stuff on the front, the mobility of this vehicle can get it in and out of trouble pretty quickly, and that's down to the fact that it has this 260 horsepower engine for the 20-ton vehicle, but mainly it has this transmission, which means that going forward and backwards is seamless. You can completely change how you play the game. A lot of vehicles around these BRs do not have good reverse speeds. They're usually pretty weak. You know, think about like the Cromwell or the Sherman. You're looking at, you know, maybe 4 to 10 kilometers an hour at most. Same with stuff like the Panzer IV F2. But things like the Turan, you're actually able to pop out, bang, and then go back, and then just keep doing that over and over again. And once you get the elevation mechanism, and hopefully you have a few cruise skills, because, you know, you grinded out Italy like I did, then it actually makes the gun super easy to use, and also at the same time, it means that you can keep yourself safe from getting shot. If you know where the enemy is and you're in cover and they don't know where you are, you can pop out, fire, and then go back again, and it can work incredibly well. And the Turan III is one of those vehicles that's able to do it. It just feels nice in that way to be able to do. The other really cool thing about the vehicle is the simple fact that it gets its best round stock, and this is something that it shares with a lot of German vehicles with similar guns. The stock shell that you get on this thing has the penetration, it has the explosive mass that you want after penetration, so if you penetrate something, it will just die. There isn't many vehicles that are able to stop it, and also even with the volumetric shell change and also the volumetric armor change, it does mostly go through pretty much everything that you will find. The reload on it as well is pretty standard, so that isn't an issue or it isn't a bonus either way, and the actual targeting speed on the gun is very good compared to some of its competitors around the BR. I look at the PVKV 4, which is something that I spaded before playing the Turan III, and the difference is night and day, with the Turan III having, of course, the good gun depression of -10, the PVKV 4 having, of course, the -14, but the PVKV 4 having a slightly better reload, but having to rely on an APDS that doesn't do a lot of post-pen damage, where you have the Turan III, which has a much better targeting speed, and then also on top of it, if you penetrate, will destroy the target. So even though you have this longer reload speed, because you have this better mobility, because you have this better targeting speed, it just feels so much nicer to play. And we have to come up with the age-old question, is this vehicle actually correct at 3.7? I understand that a lot of German vehicles with similar characteristics have been moved down to 3.3 and 3.7 over the years. I also disagree with the fact that they should have been moved down as well. I feel like they should have stayed at the high BRs, and what should have been done is their Predators should have been put up in BR, stuff like the KV-1 ZIS-5, and then also the late T-34s, even though I don't think they're too much of an issue. The Turan III feels like a vehicle, because of its mobility, it could easily go up in BR 240. Now, would it be fine at that BR? Yeah, of course it would. But also, it would break one of its key things, and that's the lineup that's around it, which is something we haven't mentioned yet, but it's a fantastic thing. At rank 3, for example, for Italy, you have so many options. You have the M24 Chaffee, which luckily didn't go down in BR, also it didn't go down in rank, so it's still rank 3. You got the M4A4, and then you got the M41M, the 90mm Semavente. You also have the M4 Hybrid and the Panzer IV G, all at rank 3. So you can use all of these for dailies and specials, and you can use them all together. Now, the Turan III as a vehicle has stiff competition there. It actually, going up against those other 3 medium tank vehicles. If you don't have the premiums, then obviously you bring it in. But then if you do you replace it with something like an M4 Hybrid or a Panzer IV G? To be honest with you, I think the Turan III does enough, especially when it comes to its mobility, to keep it in that lineup. You bring the Semavente for penetration, you bring the Chaffee for scouting and mobility, you bring the Turan III for a mobile platform with a hell of a gun on it, and then you bring the others as your stock standard mediums. I think the Turan actually fits, and yes, it doesn't have a 50 cal, yes, it doesn't have all of these features, but what it does have is the extra mobility, even though it is absolutely huge. So if you're a person who is very much a individual that works on getting the first shot off, before anything goes, you can sit in positions, use your binos, look down lanes, hit things, and then move back. The Turan III is definitely for you. It's one of those vehicles that will work really well, and what was really nice about it is once I spaded it, I was super close to the 2S1, and after playing the Zrinyi 2, which actually felt pretty good, playing the Turan 1, which felt pretty good, it felt like the cream on the top of the cake for the Second World War Hungarian vehicles before you get into the dross, which is the 2S1. So it was kind of a nice cherry on the top of the whole things. If you haven't played the Turan III yet, I highly recommend it. If you like stuff like the Panzer IV, you'll really enjoy this vehicle. And it's one of the only vehicles that can actually stand up to the might of the Soviets of this BR and get away with it. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Brendan Quinn, Vilneus, Character Fuel, Juan the Panda, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, Bareen, Peter Grayling, Alan Hacker, Sem Alslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R., and also Lafouche for supporting the channel.